Hello. If you're watching this video, probably you have some interest in yoga. But do you really know what yoga is? Today, it seems to represent so many different things. I'd like to share with you what yoga is in its original purpose and scope. To do so, we have to go back to some of the oldest texts of yoga. Many of you may have heard of the Yoga Sutras written by the Siddha Patanjali 2,000 years ago. But you may not have heard of another work which is called the Tirumandiram. And this work was also written by Siddha, whose name was Tirumandiram, written also about 2,000 years ago, but in a language other than Sanskrit, in which most of the works of yoga have come down to us. It's only since 1991 that we've had an English translation of Thirumandiram, and it's only this year, 2010, where we have now a very accurate translation with commentary and published in 10 volumes. The Thirumandiram contains more than 3,000 verses, and the Yoga Sutras is 195 verses. There are many indications in both books that the authors were contemporaries. Tirumandiram mentions the visit of Patanjali, for example, to the place, the temple where Tirumandiram lived. And if we compare their philosophical principles and practices, we see that either they had the same teacher or they came from the same school. So the study of both works sheds light on each other as to their purposes and scope. I'd like to share with you today some of the commonalities. Both the Yoga Sutras and the Tirumandiram believe that both our souls and the world are real. They also consider the Lord, who they call Ishvara, to be the Supreme Being. The Yoga Sutras emphasizes a philosophy which can be characterized as dualistic theism and Samkhya. Tirumandiram emphasizes a philosophy which can be called dualistic Advaita. That is, we begin from a place of duality, and as we evolve, we are able to realize the oneness and the non-duality of everything. I have a copy of the book translation I have made called the Kriya Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, from which I'm drawing some notes. There are many translations of the Yoga Sutras, and the one that I have prepared is unique in that it makes comparisons in many of the verses between itself and the Tirumandiram. It provides a verse-by-verse commentary and a verse-by-verse practice, because any student of yoga who studies it begins to see that it's more of a practice manual than a philosophical text. The Yoga Sutras also affirms that souls are multiple, unlike Vedanta, where there's only one overreaching soul known as Atman. The Tirumandiram similarly refers to the jivas as multiple souls. The primary recommended practice of Ashtanga Yoga given in the Yoga Sutras is also described and elaborated on in great detail in the Yoga Sutras. The term Kriya appears in both of these books. In the Yoga Sutras, it's referred to as the more advanced practice, which one should do constantly. And in the Tirumandiram, it's also referred to as ritual action done either internally or externally. The name for the Lord given in the Yoga Sutras is Ishvara, which is a compound word referring to Shiva, one's own true self. And Patanjali relates to him as his ultimate teacher. The term Nandi or Shiva is also given by Tirumandiram in the Tirumandiram, and he considers him to be his guru and is very devoted to him. Both works emphasize surrender to the Lord as a means of fulfillment, self-realization. Both works speak of 5 sources of suffering, 5 afflictions. Both works emphasize the fact that creation, this world, is real, but that it is in a process of evolution. Both works describe the world in terms of what they call principles. Essentially 24 principles of nature, such as earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And Thirumandiram goes even further and elaborates 36 and even 96 of these principles or tattvas. Both works talk a lot about karma and transmigration of souls. Both works emphasize social ethics. Both works emphasize 3 realities: the Lord, the soul, and the world. The method prescribed by Patanjali he calls Kriya Yoga, which is constant practice of detachment, self-study, and surrender. Surrender of the ego's perspective to this perspective of that soul witness. The method prescribed by Tirumandiram is primarily Kundalini Yoga, which is the channeling of the breath and its energy through the nadis of the body, the use of mantras, yantras, visualization. Essentially, the practice of Tantra to realize the divine. Both works emphasize the need for purification of what's called the stains, or the stains of egoism, ignorance, attachment, aversion. Both works emphasize that it's only by samadhi, or the absorption of cognition or consciousness within itself, that one can realize the truth of things, not by any intellectual efforts. Both works emphasize that the Lord is one that we can gradually come close to and eventually realize and know. Both works speak of 65 or 68 yogic miraculous powers known as siddhis. The scope of the Yoga Sutras is limited to yoga philosophy and social ethics. The scope of the Thirumandiram is much broader, including theology, tantra, social ethics are emphasized more. In bringing out this work, I wanted to stimulate above all a greater appreciation for the original scope and purpose of yoga. Today we face many social, environmental, health problems, and the works such as the Yoga Sutras and the Thirumandiram can provide us a roadmap to solution for many of these. I humbly suggest to you that by studying and applying the teachings of these 2 great works, you can be a part of the solution to these many problems the world faces today. Ultimately, these works will provide to you not only a roadmap to self-realization, God-realization, but also give you the means and tools, the vehicle to reach your full potential as a divine human being. Thank you very much. Namaste.